Good morning to you all who are physically present here, and also to those who are watching through YouTube. We, the Ramakrishna Sarada Vedanta Society of New South Wales, are going to celebrate our Holy Mother Sri Sarada Devi's birthday. We welcome you all. Just to give a brief introduction, let me draw your attention to the implication of today's event. It is one of our society's annual events to rejuvenate ourselves by grasping some of the Holy Mothers and Sri Ramakrishna's teachings and messages. This event, as usual, will take place in a serene and mentally conducive environment made through Vedic chanting, devotional songs, and 2 talks. One talk is on divinity in everyday life, and the other one on Sri Sarada Devi's contribution to the mission of Sri Ramakrishna. Now, let me briefly highlight 2 points in relation to the coming 2 talks. Now, one of the talk will cover mission of Sri Ramakrishna. So what was the mission, or what is the mission? Mission is ideal of living in God, living with God, and living for God. The third component, the living for God, is very unique in the Vedantic tradition. Why? Because living for God means living for God realization. How? Through serving the living God, the Jiva, who are potentially divine, but generally under the illusion of the material world. So Deva means we, the ordinary people, the devotees, more specifically here. The second point that I want to make is more pertinent in the context of today's event. According to Swami Buddhananda, a prolific writer in the tradition of Ramakrishna mission, Sri Ramakrishna was always outside the periphery of our material world. Now, it might be a bit too much to claim, but perhaps in the context of if you compare the contribution of Ramakrishna and Srima, perhaps it makes sense. So, Sri Ramakrishna, I would say rather, mostly remain outside the periphery of our ordinary material world rather than always. And he delivered his messages from there. I mean, from there means in the version of Swami Buddhananda, that and outside the periphery of the material world. But if we look at Sri Sarada, our Holy Mother's contribution, she lived in the Nahabat of Dakshineshwar, almost in the conditions of imprisonment for years. Now, this word imprisonment also I'm just borrowing from Swami Buddhananda. With the picture of bliss in her heart, she sought relentlessly to mitigate the sufferings of humanity in absolute silence. How she served? Firstly, through day-to-day household works at Dakshineshwar in her first phase of life, and then through her guidance from the background during the formation of Ramakrishna mission as a great pillar of support. Well, let me now request our nuns for Vedic chanting.
We will be doing the Devi Suktam from the Rigveda. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Aham Rudre Bhervasubhishcharamyahamaditye Ruta Vishwadevaihi Aham Mishra Varuno Bhabibharmyahamindravni Aham Ashvino Bha. I move the cosmic forces of vitality and wealth, the luminaries, and all celestial powers. I sustain the cosmic forces of water and light. I am the center of energy, light, and life, given by the sun, air, fire, and all other beneficial cosmic forces. Aham somamahanasam bibharmyaham tvashtaramutaposhanam bhagam. Aham dadhami dravinam havishmate supravye yajamanaya sunvate. Aham rashtre sangamani vasunam chikitushi prathama yajnyanam tama deva vyadadhu purutra bhuristatram bhurya veshayanti. I am the mother, the restorer of wealth. I know all that is worth knowing and expressing. The divine powers function with my instructions. I possess all domains. My hymns are chanted in all places. मया सोऽन्नमत्तियो विपश्यति यः प्राणितीयैः शृणोत्युक्तम् अमन्दवो मान्द उपक्षियन्ति श्रुतिश्रुतश्रद्धिवं ते वदामि. O enlightened men, through my power all the creatures take breath, eat, see, and hear. Even if they do not know, they dwell in my love. I am in them, they are in me. अहमेव स्वयमिदं वदामि जुष्टं देवेभिरुतमानुषेभिः यं कामयेतं तमुग्रं कृणोमि तं ब्रह्माणं तं ऋषिं तं सुमेधाम्. Only I speak words that bring joy to divinities and men. I grant powers to men I favor. I make them divine, the seer, and men of perfection. Aham Rudraya Dhanuratanomi Brahmadvishesharave Hantavau Aham Janaya Samadam Krinomyaham Dyava Prithivi Avivesha Aham Suve Pitaramasya Murdhan मम योनिरप्स्वन्तः समुद्रे ततो वितिष्ठे भुवनानुविश्वो तामोऽध्यां वक्ष्मणोपस्पृशामि. Aham. I stretch the bow for the defender of cosmic life, so that his arrows may pierce the malicious power. I rouse the fury in the hearts of people to battle against evils. I penetrate the heaven and the earth so that none violates my eternal laws. अहमेव वात इव प्रवाम्यारभमाणा भुवनानि विश्वा परो दिवा परयेना पृथिव्यै तावती महिना सम्बभूव. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. हरिः ॐ तत्सद्. श्रीरामकृष्णार्पणमस्तु. I breathe like the wind pervading all the regions. I go beyond the heavens, beyond the limits of this vast earth. I am invincible. None can defy me. Om, peace, peace, peace.
We'll, we'll now listen to our first talk on Divinity in Everyday Life by Dr. Uma Srinivasan. Dr. Uma Srinivasan is a humble devotee of the Ramakrishna Sarada Vivekananda movement. She is an academic by profession and mentors PhD students in the area of health informatics. Her recent English translation of her mother's Tamil novel titled Nandi Nayakan has been a soul satisfying experience for her. Dr. Uma Srinivasan.
Namaste, namaste, Mataji. Namaste, namaste, everyone. It's an absolute honor and privilege to be here. I feel very blessed when Mataji invited me to present this talk here. I pray that Holy Mother gives me the divinity to do justice to this divine life. Now, Holy Mother, I chose this topic on everyday life because she led an everyday life. Externally, if you see, she's a humble person. She was a wife. She looked after Sri Ramakrishna. She looked after his devotees. And all through, she was this very humble person, did not have an imposing presence, like not for her the external ecstasies and samadhi of Sri Ramakrishna, nor did she make this huge speeches like Sri Vivekananda. She was there, like the analogy I think of is when you see a huge tree, the trunk and the leaves, but the root is hidden. And without the root, the tree cannot exist. She was that root. And she continues to be the hidden root, which is making this tree, this mission, the Sarada Vedanta Society, the Ramakrishna mission, all over the world, the teaching spread all over the world. It's the root that is holding it. It is said that if the tree trunk is 1 meter, the root is 1.5 meters. It's 1.5 meters longer than the whole tree. So that's how strong and powerful her influence has been. And so I thought, let's take this humble person, almost invisible person who stays in the background, and look at her life, how she manifested divinity in everyday life, something that we can pick up and at least try to emulate, try to understand. They're simple words. They are not big ecstasy words. They are not, big talks which requires a great intellectual capability or knowledge to follow. They are for everyday people like us. So, where was her divinity hidden? For her, it was everywhere. It was in everyone, in every task she performed. Wherever her eyes went, that is where her divinity went. And so what I thought was, we'll look at her life from three perspectives, three sequences she went through. The first part is when she was with Sri Ramakrishna the first 13, 14 years from the age of 18. Then we will look at the subsequent brief period when he passed away, before the formal Ramakrishna mission was formed, that reveals she went through, the problems she went through, and how she dealt with it. And then the later part is how the mission was formed and how she helped to spread the word of Sri Ramakrishna, how she helped to spread his teachings. So we'll look at three phases of life and take little instances and then see what it is that we can take away for our in our lives. Now, Sri Ramakrishna preached the importance of abstaining from Kamini Kanchan, symbolizing lust and greed, and that is the first thing he had to overcome. But Sri Sharda Devi was a mother. She made it very clear. She had no distinction between men, women, good, bad. Like a mother, she embraced everyone. Whoever came to her presence and called her mother, they became her child. It was a universal acceptance. And the very first thing when she went there, she got married to him at when she was 5, he was 23. He was already in the spiritual path. He had come along. He had started having ecstasies, and yet somewhere it is ordained by divinity that he married this little girl. And she met him when she was 17, 7, 13, 14, different times in his place in Kamarpakur. And She was happy. Then, when she heard, when she was 18, rumors came in that he was going insane, that he was not himself, he was not able to lead a normal life. Each time she said, "Look, I've got to go and see what I can do to help him." And that's how she came to Dakshineshwar. And when he saw her, his question was, "Have you come to drag me to this world?" All of you have heard that question, right? But what did she say? She says, "No, I came to help you achieve your goals." Let's just take that. She said to help you achieve your goals. Let's all look at it from our lives. Whether you're a man or a woman, everyone. If we are able to do it for first starting with our partner, whoever it is, husband, wife, whoever, we are able to help them achieve their goals, whatever they, as long as it's a good goal, of course. If we are able to achieve their goal, that's the first step. Let's take it to the next step. In a family, we have children, and girl or boy, someone wants to be a sportsman, someone wants to be a journalist, someone wants to be a scientist. The kids have their own natural tendencies, abilities, dreams. And a mother, what does a mother do? Try to see, give the opportunity so they are able to achieve their goal. So the next step is, how can we help our children achieve their goal? And then take it to the next step. We work in an organization. How can we achieve the organization achieve its goal? And when we all, most of us have, and even if you're a CEO, you have a boss. The board is your boss. So everybody has someone who has their own goals to achieve. So how can we help the organization, your department to achieve the goal, your organization to achieve the goal, the society to achieve the goal? So if we all are if we are able to help at every level to achieve the goals that they want to achieve, then life will be such a breeze, because we are always helping. But the problem is, if we start focusing on our goal, my goal, I want to get it no matter what, that's when the problem starts. But if we say, and by achieving other people's goals, you are always achieving your goal. I mean, that is one of the biggest satisfaction I found when I was mentoring PhD students. They achieve their goal, I achieve a big goal. And if, as each of them achieves their goal, my goal is, I feel so happy to be there. And I feel so blessed to be here to talk about all of our goals, how we can all think of the next person's goal and see how to help them. A simple thing, she said, we can extend it as much as we want. So it's for us to see, not to look as individuals at our goals, but to look at the goals of everyone we encounter. Then she was with Sri Ramakrishna for 14 years, from 1872 to 1876. And when he passed away, she was just 32 years old. And of course, she was devastated. And while she was there with him, Dr. Datta briefly talked about it. She was in this really, really tiny house, Nahabat, serving him, making sure his meals were served. It's not just him. He had so many devotees come. So she was cooking day in and day out for all the devotees, every day for those 14 years. And most of the time, the tiniest place. And then her work, her meditation started at 3 a.m. in the morning. So she did her meditation. And one of the other messages, you can think of God and divinity in every task that you do every day of your life. And she started at 3 a.m. so that she could have her meditation before the day started. And that is how, waking up at 3 a.m., cooking the whole day. And then she also wanted to see Ramakrishna's ecstasy, the bhajans that went on. So she had a little hole in that screen of that Nahabat, and she used to stand there and watch him dance and sing and so on. I mean, she stood there. If you're not cooking, she stood. No wonder her rheumatism was so bad in later years for her. She was just serving and serving and serving. And then during this period, So at some point, and between this, the only time she was out of this place was whenever she went to Jairambati, her birthplace. She was looking after her family there as well. So she would go there, look after her family, come here, look after Sri Ramakrishna and the entire disciples. That's how her life was spent. And there were times that, just to give an instance of Sri Ramakrishna, completely respected as an equal partner. Even though his disciples did not see her, she was wearing the veil, she was hidden, they did not see her, but he was an equal partner in everything. Once, when Hriday, his nephew, insulted her, when he said, if you insult me, you can get away with it. But if you insult her, it will have a very, it will not have a good effect on you. So do not dare insult her. And the story goes true enough. After he insulted very soon, there was a puja that he did which was not appropriate, and he was uh, sent away from Dakshineshwar temple and not allowed to perform any puja. Sri Ramakrishna knew, and Sri Vivekananda said, look, every time he was overseas, he said, look after her. She's the one who's going to guide us, guide humanity. So they knew the divinity was there, even though it was so hidden. So common people saw the white sari, saw the humble woman, and saw the woman who was covered in veil, no big words. They saw the physical body, but anybody who went beyond could feel her presence. And then the early years after Sri Ramakrishna passed away, it was a very tough time for the entire community of monks, but definitely for her. And he had told her to go to Kamarpakur, which was his village. There was a little piece of land and place to stay. But then it did not, that was not even enough to feed her, let alone her retinue. And she had a very hard time. And so she tried. She was there for a couple of years by then, and she didn't even have enough to eat. She had to, grow her own vegetables, and even the little money was taken away from her. So it was a very tough time. She did not give up. That's another big thing to turn. No matter what happened, she did not give up at all. She continued her holding on to that divinity within her and in everyone else around her. She was not annoyed or upset with anyone who was creating so much trouble for her. And that during that time, she also went on a pilgrimage to Benares and Ayodhya, and later on to Vrindavan, and where she had actually, it was a peaceful time for her. But then when she went, her family, some of the others, they also wanted to go with her. And of course, the moment they go, they come with their own problems, and she handled all of them all along. She never saw them as problems, like I'm saying they're problems, but she did not see them as problems. They are just there. They are family. She has to serve them. That's all she saw. And then when it came to, which is when she was in Vrindavan, others, she saw, when she went to Bodh Gaya, she saw there a beautiful monastery where the monks did not have to run. They were there, they had food and they had shelter and they were peaceful. They could follow their austerities, which is when she started praying to Sri Ramakrishna. If my monks, if my sons, your disciples have to wander all over asking Bhiksha, they were everywhere at that time. Sri Ramakrishna's disciples were roaming all over in the Himalayas, in the US, wherever, they were all over. And she said they need to have a place. That those kind of monks are everywhere. You can go to Rishikesh, you see a wandering monk with a begging bowl. That is not what you have created. Your message has to go, can only go if your monks have a proper place to stay. And she prayed hard for a monastery. And it is her big prayer. Even when she was suffering, she was praying for these monks. And that was the origin, the beginning of the Belur Mutt that came up. So again, the root is working to make sure the tree grows, the leaves grow. And then while the direct disciples knew her strength, they respected her, the others had not recognized, many of them had not recognized her divinity. It took them, the other people, a while to get used to her. And sometimes the villagers even insulted her. And then her mother and Golakma and a few others realized that, she is this divine human being. Why is she suffering? And then they took her to Calcutta. And once she went to Calcutta, then, other people started seeing her, came to her, and they looked at her simple messages. And then they said, she just had very simple messages to give everyone. Don't judge others, judge yourself. If someone is doing harm for you, pray that something good happens to them. And see what she said. Say something good happens to them if they did some harm for you. Those were such very simple messages that she started. And for her, whether it was Vivekananda, whether it was Sister Nivedita, or whether it was Amjad, the or it was the low caste person who came to build her wall, they were all the same. She wanted to treat them all the same way. There are all kinds of interesting stories, and I'll stick to my time, but I just wanted to share this one story. When it was in Jairam Bati, there was this family festival, Jagadatri festival, that their whole family used to do. And that year, they were planning it in a big way. And then at that time, there was a small ashram at Kolpara, which is 5 kilometers. And the disciples, some brahmacharis and disciples were all there. They all wanted to participate in this festival. And one of the monks there, he took the ash from the havan and applied it to one of the priests who was performing. Now, these priests are conservative Brahmin priests who were performing the festival. One of them got really annoyed and then said, you have to pay a fine, 250 rupees for those days. You can imagine how big it was. And somehow they decided to pay the fees. Then one of her, and they said, because they said the person who applied the ash, he's a monk, all right, but he's not a Brahmin. He's not a high caste Brahmin. And the Holy Mother saw this. She knew it was wrong, but she said, okay, the priests have their system. Let us pay the 250 rupees. So she made sure it was paid. But then she said, this is not right. This is not how they should be treated. For me, they are all disciples. So she sent one of them, go there and buy jalebis from wherever to the market, and then buy some puffed rice, and everybody is going to sit down and eat and cook together, because this puff rice does not go through the conservative, it's not cooked. So it's available for everyone. She got everyone to come and eat this together. And the young little kids there, they said, oh, they're all eating together. Don't you know they are monks? They don't have a caste. So that's how in one, she was happy to pay the 250 rupees to those people, but then she made sure that everyone had a meal together. The community got the message. There's no caste. When you are with the divine, there's no caste. So such a powerful, in a conservative family, coming from that background, she passed on this message. And then the other message to take away also is when she realized the divinity was everywhere within her, everywhere she saw, she thought, I have come to the end of my journey, and what is there for me? I have completed. Which is when Sri Ramakrishna again came to her in her dream, and then he said, look, there is a lot more that you need to do. You can't, you have many more, you have to spread the message far and wide. Your time has not come. And just to make that, that is when this Radhu, she had a brother, and a brother's wife was had a mental problem, and the child that was born, Radhu, got, mother had to take on the responsibility of the child that also had some mental problems. The mother had mental problems, and the father was not, willing to support, and it fell to her. She took it on. And so Radhu became like a prop for her not to give up and say, my job is done. And in fact, one of the ladies who came to visit her, then when Radhu came in, and then Radhu's mother, her brothers, and then another niece, Nalini, so many people came in, and she had to look after all of them. Someone said, one of the ladies, she said, Mother, now you're deeply engrossed in Maya. What happened to all your divinity? You're looking after this, you're telling Golap Ma to do some work. And so you become a housewife all over, family woman all over again. Where is that divinity? Then she said, what do you mean, my dear girl? I am myself Maya. She had that realization, I am myself Maya. So it's not, she is not Maya. I am myself Maya. This is the Maya life that has to be led. So if we are able to see, again the message for us, if we are able to see all the physical things, the constraints that we have to see is part of the Maya of this world. And we too, rather than hook on to this physical body, this body is simply an instrument doing a few things. It is here to perform a few tasks, to perform a few functions. And if we are able to do that, and this along with signing up onto the goal of the others, life is such a breeze. There is no tension because you're just here to do a task. And you are also part of this Maya. And then some more simple messages as she went on. We know that later on in the years, she did not, I said she did not give up. Just one more instance of how she did not give in. Many of you know the story. When Belur Mutt was being formed, and of course it got bigger, and there was a plague, and Swami Vivekananda wanted to sell off the property so that he could raise funds to support this plague. And she said, is it yours to sell? She said, is this land yours to sell? It is Ramakrishna's. It belongs to this community. So it is not a single decision. It is the whole community that is there. So if you want, so that is how, so she didn't give in either. So she appeared weak, maybe, but not. She was strong. And it is told that Vivekananda used to wash himself many, many times before meeting her because he didn't want even a single blemish to be in front of her. That is how much he respected her. And his voice would go down when he spoke to her, not that dynamic voice of the Chicago address. He was humble. His voice will go down. And he knew he could never, it would be so hard for him to reach her level of divinity and humility. And so she is alive. She is, if we think of her as the root, she is with us. She is here with us. And if we look at her, she performed the roles of a daughter, a wife, a mother, a teacher, a nun, and an all-loving universal mother. She is the root. She never gave up. She never gave in. She is here with us, blessing us all forever and ever. Hari Om. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Srinivasan, for your very elaborative picture of how Holy Mother used to live, how she used to guide individual devotees and also the institutions, which, as you know, the Ramakrishna mission at its foundational stage. Do the job at Chicago. And then she said, yes, the way you gave me the knife, that says me everything. In fact, this is the knife, and she took the front side of the knife and then gave it to Mataji this way. So he did not want to hurt her by any chance, Holy Mother. So that is basically the test which she said that you have passed the test. It's wonderful to see that how in a simple way she judged a person whether he or she would be successful in their motto. All right, so this is the time now to have our devotional songs. We have a group of singers, Devorati Banerjee, Urmi Banerjee, Sayanti Bhattacharya, Sumita Sarkar, and will be accompanied by Samtanu Banerjee on tabla and Madhusen on harmonium. Please come to the desk here and then, allow us to enjoy your songs, devotional songs. What is Samton?
I did.
Sorry, I made a mistake. There will be no problem.
First, I want to convey my pronoun to Ma Sarada and Sri Ramakrishna Dev and Swami Vivekananda. Thank you, Mataji, to contact me to organize some devotional song with the groups. I used to come here every year on Mother's birthday. This year I tried my best, but due to COVID, I couldn't find anyone except Devinity. So I tried till yesterday, but couldn't find anyone. Some people promised, but due to their work related restriction and COVID some restriction, they couldn't come to perform. So beside me, Shumita and Santi, usually they sing at their own home, mother songs every day or every week whenever they get time. So it is not a professional song, but it is a mother song. It will be very different. So hope we can make a devotional atmosphere rather than a professional singing atmosphere. And I'm sorry that Shantanu's name was announced because till yesterday I hoped few of the artists will come. That's why I put his name. But we are not professional, that is no instrument is adding. And thank you, Mataji and Robert. At least we can perform some devotional things in front of you. Thank you all.
জয় জননী জয় শ্রী সারদামণি করুণারূপিণী জয় মা। জয় জয় জননী জয় শ্রী শারদামণি করুণারূপিণী জয় মা। আত্মা শক্তি পরমা প্রকৃতি, আত্মা শক্তি পরমা প্রকৃতি, অসাধারণ গতি তুমি মা, অসাধারণ গতি তুমি মা। জয় জগতারিণী ভব ভয় হারিণী দুর্গতি নিবারিণী মা। জয় জগতারিণী ভব ভয় হারিণী দুর্গতি নিবারিণী মা। সিদ্ধি প্রদায়িনী মুক্তি বিধায়িনী, সিদ্ধি প্রদায়িনী মুক্তি বিধায়িনী জীবগতি দায়িনী মা, জীবগতি দায়িনী মা। নিখিল জগত মাতা জীব কল্যাণ রতা লজ্জা পটাবৃতা মা। নিখিল জগত মাতা লজ্জা রতা লজ্জা পটাবৃতা মা। দুর্জন সজ্জন সন্তান অগণন, দুর্জন সজ্জন সন্তান অগণন পালনকারিণী মা, পালনকারিণী মা। জয় শারদেশ্বরী সীতারাধা মাতা মেরি যশোধরা বিষ্ণু প্রিয়া মা। জয় শারদেশ্বরী সীতারাধা মাতা মেরি যশোধরা বিষ্ণু প্রিয়া মা। যুগদেব বন্দিতা সুর নর সেবিতা, যুগদেব বন্দিতা সুর নর সেবিতা নমো নারায়ণী মা, নমো নারায়ণী মা। জয় জয় জননী জয় শ্রী শারদামণি করুণারূপিণী জয় মা। আত্মা শক্তি পরমা প্রকৃতি, আত্মা শক্তি পরমা প্রকৃতি, অসাধারণ গতি তুমি মা, অসাধারণ গতি তুমি মা। জয় জয় জননী জয় শ্রী শারদামণি করুণারূপিণী জয় মা, করুণারূপিণী জয় মা, করুণারূপিণী জয় মা।
So next two songs with Devinity and her little girl, little daughter, Urmi. She's very young, and hopefully she can sing a mother song.
এসো দেবী এসো, এসো মা শারদা, সত্য জননী এসো মা বরদা। এসো দেবী এসো, এসো মা শারদা, সত্য জননী এসো মা বরদা। নিত্য মাগো তুমি জয়দা যশোদা, এসো সত্য মাগো মোক্ষদা। এসো দেবী এসো, এসো মা শারদা, সত্য জননী এসো মা বরদা। প্রেমময়ী মাগো, মাগো চিরন্তনী, জগত জননী ওগো রাজেশ্বরী। প্রেমময়ী মাগো, মাগো চির করি বিশ্বেশ্বরী ওগো সত্যেশ্বরী মাগো ভক্তি মুক্তি মোক্ষদায়িনী এসো দেবী এসো এসো মা শারদা সত্য জননী এসো মা বরদা। পতিত উদ্ধার অধমে তার মা বিপদে বিপদ নাশিনী পতিত উদ্ধার অধমে তার মা বিপদে বিপদ নাশিনী জীবলীলা শেষে কোলে ধরো এসে অসৎ ও সতের জননী জীবলীলা শেষে কোলে ধরো এসে অসৎ ও সতের জননী এসো দেবী এসো এসো মা শারদা সত্য জননী এসো মা বরদা নিত্য মাগো তুমি জয়দা যশোদা এসো সত্য মাগো মোক্ষদা এসো দেবী এসো এসো মা শারদা সত্য জননী এসো মা বরদা। শারদারাম কৃষ্ণ নামের বান ডেকেছে রে ভাই শারদারাম কৃষ্ণ নামের বান ডেকেছে রে ভাই বিশ্বভুবন ভেসে গেল আহা বলি হারি যাই বিশ্বভুবন ভেসে গেল আহা বলি হারি যাই শারদারাম কৃষ্ণ নামের বান ডেকেছে রে ভাই শারদারাম কৃষ্ণ নামের বান ডেকেছে রে ভাই যুগের হাওয়া লাগলো পালে জীবন তোরি দে না খুলে যুগের হাওয়া লাগলো পালে জীবন তোরি দে না খুলে যুগের হাওয়া লাগলো পালে জীবন তোরি দে না খুলে শারদারাম কৃষ্ণ বলে হেসে খেলে চলে যাই শারদারাম কৃষ্ণ বলে হেসে খেলে চলে যাই মা 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 বলে মায়ের কোলে চলে যাই মা 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 বলে মায়ের কোলে চলে যাই শারদারাম কৃষ্ণ নামের বান ডেকেছে রে ভাই শারদারাম কৃষ্ণ নামের বান ডেকেছে রে ভাই বিশ্বভুবন ভেসে গেল আহা বলি হারি যাই বিশ্বভুবন ভেসে গেল আহা বলি হারি যাই শারদারাম কৃষ্ণ নামের বান ডেকেছে রে ভাই শারদারাম কৃষ্ণ নামের বান ডেকেছে রে ভাই।
thanks to everybody. Devrati Banerjee, Miss Urmi Banerjee, Shanti Bhattacharya, Sumita Sorkar, and on harmonium, Madhu Sen. Thank you for all of your songs from the very core of your hearts, full of respect and reverence to our Holy Mother. Thank you. Now we will have our last talk by our President, Pravrajika Gayatriprana. The title of her talk is Sri Sarada Devi, Helpmate in the Mission of Sri Ramakrishna.
Thank you very much, Uma, for the wonderful talk. And Mathu Sen and her group, thank you so much. It's a wonderful tribute to your offering to Holy Mother. It's much better than a professional way. It's from the heart. It's very wonderful. Thank you so much. Yadhagne dahika shakti Ramakrishne sthita hiya sarvavidya swarupam tam Sharadam pranamamya. My salutations to Sri Sarada Devi, the embodiment of knowledge, who is inseparable from Sri Ramakrishna, like fire and its burning power. We already heard from both speakers, that's Uma Srinivasan and our MC Dilip Datta, how when Holy Mother first came to Dakshinesha, to Sri Ramakrishna at the age of 18, Sri Ramakrishna asked her this pertinent question: have you come to drag me to the worldly life? And without a moment's hesitation came the reply: why should I drag you into the world? I'm here to help you realize your spiritual ideal, to help you in your mission. And what a significant answer! To help you in your spiritual mission. How did she know that Sri Ramakrishna had a spiritual mission and what it was? Without knowing, how can she help? How did she know that? In the Hindu tradition, the wife is referred to as Sahadharmini, the partner in spiritual life. Both husband and wife help each other on the spiritual path. For the performance of any religious rite, the householder should have his wife beside him. They had to sit together. In the Ramayana, we see that when Sri Rama, after the banishment of Sita, was performing Ashwamedha Yaga, the horse sacrifice. There was no Sita, but he had to have his wife. So the people asked him to marry again. But that was the first time Sri Rama went against the wishes of the people. He banished Sita to fulfill the wishes of the people because Sita is his consort, part. But as a king, he has his duties towards the subjects. So he banished her. But when they asked him to marry again, he said no. But instead, he had the golden image of Sita made and kept next to him, as representing Sita. Did Holy Mother say in that sense that I have come to help you in your spiritual mission? But no, it was much more than that. Her actions and behavior showed that she was conscious of the great spiritual mission of bringing about the spiritual renaissance of the modern world. for which both Sri Ramakrishna and herself had taken the human form. We get some inklings about the greatness of Holy Mother, how she knew about the spiritual mission from the sayings of Sri Ramakrishna, what Sri Ramakrishna remarked, or casual remarks of Sri Ramakrishna about Holy Mother. Like once he told one of the companions of Holy Mother, Yoginma, she is incarnation of Saraswati. She has born to bestow knowledge on others. Again, is she an ordinary being? She is my Shakti. So all these different remarks of Sri Ramakrishna give us a glimpse to the idea that Holy Mother knew her divinity. She knew what the spiritual mission of Sri Ramakrishna was. She's not just an ordinary woman. When God incarnates, he is always accompanied by his divine power, divine Shakti incarnate, and we are usually depict the divine power as the divine consort. Like we have Rama with Sita, Krishna with Radha, Buddha and Yashodhara, all that. But in divine incarnations, early incarnations, the divine consorts didn't play a very active role. Sita, Radha, Yashodhara, they didn't do any active part in the mission of the incarnation. They were just there, that's all. But in the Ramakrishna incarnation, it's quite different. The divine consort, Holy Mother, played and is still playing a very active role in the redeeming activities of Sri Ramakrishna. Towards the end of his life, when he was suffering from throat cancer, one day, Sri Ramakrishna, when Mother went with his food, he kept on looking at her. So Mother asked, "What are you thinking? Tell me." Then Sri Ramakrishna said, "Won't you do anything? Should this do everything?" He never referred to himself as I, because the I was completely eliminated. He could not say I. He always referred to himself as this place or this. So he is saying, should this do everything single-handed? And Mother, with her characteristic shyness and humility, said, "I'm a woman. What can I do?" Sri Ramakrishna said, no, you will have to do a lot. The people of Calcutta appear to be crawling about like worms in the dark. Do look after them. This is not my burden alone. You too shall have to share it. Looking after the people, he just referred to Calcutta because they were living close to Calcutta. But when he says Calcutta, which means the whole world he's referring to. The people are crawling like worms in dark. It's your duty. It's not just my duty. It's not just my burden. It's yours also. This is not my burden alone. You too shall have to share it. So what was Sri Ramakrishna's mission in life? And why did he do all that we see that he did? We see Sri Ramakrishna saying again and again that the aim of human life is to realize God. Our innate divinity. To realize God, God is within us. That is, we are essentially divine. To realize that is the aim of human life. We are born as human beings not to just to enjoy the pleasures of the world. That enjoying the pleasures of the world when animals do. So what is the difference between them, animals and human beings? We have been born with the consciousness of the divinity within, and we have to realize that. That is the aim of human life. If you don't do that, the scriptures say we are actually committing spiritual suicide. If you don't try to realize God, Not, they don't say straight away that you will realize God or you are divinity. But if you don't try, if you don't strive to realize that you are divine nature, you are actually committing spiritual suicide. The human birth is a waste. Sri Ramakrishna practiced all the different religions and of the different religions and also the different sects within Hinduism and realized the goal of each. Through that, he showed that all these different religions are different paths. We can follow any and still reach the same goal of realizing the innate divinity. And also, he showed how religion can broaden the outlook of human beings and how every act of our day to day life can be God centered. So he says, hold on to God with one hand and do your duty with the other. So, according to Sri Ramakrishna's teaching, nobody can say that we don't have time to do spiritual practices. He's saying, hold on to God with one hand and do all your duties with the other. He's not asking us to give up all the duties and spend all the time thinking of God. No. Hold on to God with one hand and do your duty with the other. So his life showed that this realizing the divine innate divinity is for everybody. It's not just for any particular group of people or a particular. There is no difference of creed or color. It's for the whole world. To spread this ideal broadcast the world over, Sri Ramakrishna brought Swami Vivekananda along with him. In the life in the, of Sri Ramakrishna and both Swami Vivekananda, we see how we read about how Sri Ramakrishna had a vision in which his mind soared and went to a very high spiritual plane, and there he found 7 sages deep in meditation. And one said that suddenly this consciousness condensed in the form of a little child and went up to one of the sages and said, I'm going down, you also must come. And Sri Ramakrishna later said, when he saw Narendra, the young man who later became Swami Vivekananda, he recognized that sage, that divine sage. So Sri Ramakrishna brought Vivekananda along with him to spread his message. A few days before his passing away, Sri Ramakrishna transmitted spiritual power to Narendra. And also he gave authority to Narendra to teach. Sri Ramakrishna says again and again that if you don't get authority from God, you can talk about spiritual matters, you can teach, but it won't be effective. People will listen for a few days and then forget. But if you get authority from God, then that will be effective. And here, Sri Ramakrishna gave actually a written authority on a piece of paper. He could not speak. Because of throat cancer, he could hardly speak. So on a piece of paper, he wrote, Naren will teach people. And Narendra said, no, I won't do that. And Sri Ramakrishna said, your very bones will do. You'll be forced to do it. You cannot escape it. So that's what Swamiji did, both in India and in the West. In 1896, he wrote to Miss Margaret Noble, who later became Sister Nivedita, my ideal indeed may be put into a few words, and that is to preach unto mankind their divinity and how to make it manifest in every moment of life. To preach unto mankind their divinity and how to make it manifest in every moment of life. This idea is spread out by Swami Vivekananda, but people need a role model to follow it. This how to make the divinity manifest in every moment of life. Very few people can follow it or try to practice it just by listening to the ideal. But if we can see a person actually doing that, living that life, a role model, then more people will get courage to attempt that. And that role was left for Holy Mother. Through her life, she exemplified this ideal, how to make the divinity manifest in every moment of our life. Once a disciple asked Sarada Devi about her active role in the spiritual mission of Sri Ramakrishna. She said, while the earlier divine consorts, they didn't do anything. Why are you so different? Then Holy Mother replied, the Master looked upon all in the world as Divine Mother. He left me behind to demonstrate that motherhood of God to the world. So we see that her role in Sri Ramakrishna's mission of spiritual regeneration was directed by her motherliness. She was mother to all and could never turn anyone back. Whoever came calling her mother was accepted. To refer to just one incident, when Sri Ramakrishna was still in Dakshinesha, as usual, one day Holy Mother prepared the food and took it to his room. You all heard how she used to cook day after, always Mother Sri Ramakrishna's food in the Nahabat and took it to Sri Ramakrishna's room. One lady was standing near the door of the room, Sri Ramakrishna's room, and she went forward to Mother and said, Mother, let me carry the plate to the Master. Give me the chance. So Holy Mother handed over the plate to her. She took it and kept it in a place where Sri Ramakrishna is going to sit, and left the room. Holy Mother went in, Sri Ramakrishna came and sat, and he took the morsel of food but could not put it in his mouth. He put it back, could not eat it. And then he turned to Holy Mother and said, you know that lady is not of pure character. Why did you allow her to bring my food? Why did you hand over to, you know that I can't eat food touched by impure people? Then Mother said, I know. But if she called me mother and asked me, if somebody calls me mother and asks for anything, I can never refuse. What a great statement it is that. It's an assurance to all of us. However bad we may be, just call her mother and ask for help. She can never refuse. And then she said, you must not forget, she's telling Sri Ramakrishna, you must not forget that you are not only my Lord, you are the Lord of all. You have come not just for my sake, you have come for the sake of all. So that lady may be of not good character, but you are for her also. You cannot push that person away. Earlier, when she was young, Sri Ramakrishna had told her, just like the uncle moon is everybody's uncle, all children's uncle, all the children refer to the moon as uncle moon. As uncle moon is the uncle of everybody, dear, God is dear to all. Nobody is denied from approaching God. So she is telling that reminding him, you belong to her also. You have come not just for my sake. So here, Sarada Devi is putting his teaching into practice. God is for everybody, showing us also. The Hinduism was or also is, never an organized religion. He can see mendicants roaming around from place to place, um, doing spiritual practices, teaching people, but never an organization was not there. But in the modern world, organization is necessary to spread the teachings, the spiritual ideas. So Sri Ramakrishna realized that, and he himself sowed the seeds of the organization which bears his name, the Ramakrishna Order. He gave the mocha cloths to some of his young disciples before, when he was in Kosipur towards the end of his life. And he also gave instructions to Narendra, whom he made the leader of the youngsters young group, saying that, see that they do their spiritual practices properly, and also see that they don't return home. They had collected together in the Kosipur garden to look after Sri Ramakrishna. Now Sri Ramakrishna is telling Narendra, see that they don't return home, go back to their homes. And what happened after Sri Ramakrishna's passing away? They had no place to live together, and the householders who were supporting monetarily, financially, they said all these young boys should go back home and lead the normal life. And the parents, of course, were happy because now the boys will come back and resume their studies. They were all young ones. But Sri Ramakrishna had other plans. One day he appeared in a vision to Surendra, one of the household disciples, who was bearing most of the expenses of Sri Ramakrishna's stay in Kosipur. He appeared and said, what are you doing? My boys are roaming around without a place. Do something about that. Surendra immediately went to Narendra, who was his neighbor, and said, brother, please find out a place where we can all stay together and we keep the memory of our master, and we will be householders. We'll come there and get some relief from our problems in the daily of worldly life. So the Baranagar monastery was started, but the idea of monks is wandering. So soon after, one by one, they started roaming around, going to different places and doing their spiritual practices. Because the young disciples and the householders did not recognize the need of an organization, of a Sangha. That Holy Mother realized. She realized that the young monastics must live together, bound by the cord of love, and thus spread the message of Sri Ramakrishna throughout the world. This is the first instance in the religious history where a woman played such an important role in forming an order of monks and guiding them. As I mentioned earlier, all her actions were directed by her motherly love. Now, seeing the young monks roaming around without food or shelter, her mother's heart wept. And later years after the monastery was organized and all this came up, one day, talking to one of the disciples, she was saying, seeing them roaming around, she prayed to the Lord, to Sri Ramakrishna, with tears in her eyes. She said, how much did I weep and pray to the Master for my children? That's why you find monasteries and centers of work everywhere, through his blessings. After the Master's demise, his disciples renounced the world and found a temporary shelter, and for a few days lived together. Then, one by one, they went out independently and began to roam hither and thither. That made me very sad. I prayed to the Master, saying, O Lord, you have been embodied in human form, and you spent the period of your earthly existence with a few disciples. Now, has everything ended with your passing away? In that case, what was the need of your embodiment and entailing so much of suffering? I have seen in Vrindavan and Benares so many holy men living on alms, having the shades of tree for shelter. There is no lack of sadhus of that type. I cannot bear to see my children, who have renounced all for your sake, wandering about for a morsel of food. It is my prayer, O Lord, that those who give up the world for your sake may not suffer for want of simple food and coarse clothing. It is my prayer that my children should live together. See, that's the important thing. Should live together. Not just they get food and clothing, but they should live together, clinging to you and your teaching. And people afflicted with the suffering of the world should come to them and get peace of mind by hearing them your words. It is through her prayer that the Ramakrishna order came into existence. Though Sri Ramakrishna himself sowed the seeds, the sapling would have been destroyed if not the nurture of Holy Mother. And later, when Swami Vivekananda formally organized the Ramakrishna Association after his return from the West in 1897, and later got the place of Belur Monastery, Holy Mother was very happy. She said, "At last, my children have got a place." Mother showed through her life how to live a God-centered life in the world, in this world. People say, how can we live? In the world, we have got our duties, our responsibilities, our family, have to look after the family. How can you think about God? Holy Mother, through her life, showed how we can. The people around Holy Mother, if you read the life, you see that they are not easy people. They were not, they were the least godly minded people. They were the most worldly minded people. Her brothers, her sisters-in-law, her nieces were all extremely worldly minded. All they were interested is getting money from Holy Mother. That's all they were interested, nothing else. And in the midst of all that, she lived them. She lived there, looking after them, caring for them, fully engaging in the activities of day-to-day life of the family, taking part in the ceremony of all the different activities of birth, marriage, disease, death, all that. But like the lotus leaf, she was untouched, unattached. She was there all the time, ready as a mother for thousands of devotees who came to her for spiritual guidance. So she showed through her life how to live unattached in the world. We all say, oh, how can we live unattached? Because often we confuse unattachment or detachment is non-caring, uncaring. It's not. Dispassion is not uncaring. You care for, you love them, but don't be attached. That's a difference. She showed through her life how to live unattached. She was, as we heard from Uma, people often told Mother, you are so attached to Radhu. But her attachment to Radhu was like the attachment of the maid servant in the rich man's house. Sri Ramakrishna gives in the gospel we can see, gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, we can see him telling how to live in the world. Live in the world like the maid servant in the rich man's house. The maid servant brings up the children of the master, caring for them, looking after them, and showing them affection, calling them, oh, my dear. But she knows that they are not hers. Her children are in the village far away. And if she is dismissed, she doesn't have any difficulty leaving them. So Sri Ramakrishna is asking the devotees to live in the world like that. Love them, love your family, love your husband, wife, children, parents, brothers, sisters, all of your friends, as though they are very dear to you. That is the one point here to remember. As though they are very dear. That means, but you have to remember, God is the only one. You are only dear to one person to you. Mother showed through her life how to live like this, like the maidservant in the rich man's house. And what are the methods of realizing this inner divinity? Swami Vivekananda says the national ideals of India are renunciation and service. The national ideals of India are renunciation and service. Just utter the word renunciation, people get frightened. Renunciation, that means you are asking us to give up everything and go to the forest or mountain. Bhagavad Gita explains renunciation as non-attachment, unattached. Giving up attachment to the fruits of the action. That means, in general terms, it is giving up attachment to the things of the world. Now, if you give attachment to things of the world, then what do we have to hold on to? They say, hold on to God. As we said earlier, Sri Ramakrishna's words, hold on to God with one hand and do all your duty with the other. Do all the duties, but your whole should be to God. That way you can live unattached. If you are able to live unattached in the world, the problems of the world, the miseries, the troubles and difficulties that come won't sweep you off the feet. That's all. Don't think that problems won't come. Just because you are praying to God or you love God, you won't face problem. No, you will be facing problem. But we will have strength to face the problem and we won't be swept off the feet. We'll be able to regain our balance. And the more we love God, the lesser will be our attachment to the world. And how do that love of God express itself? Through service to the people. The service to people who are the embodiment of God. The people who are the living gods. And that's what Holy Mother showed through her life. All through her life, she served humanity. And served humanity as her own. The last advice she gave to her devotee is, no one is a stranger. The whole world is your own. The whole world is yours. So you serve everybody, seeing God in them. The trouble with us, we serve, but our love and service is limited to the people with whom we identify. Our friends, our family, it's always connected with I and mine. You remove that, make it the whole world. Then it's no problem. That's what Mother said. Nobody's a stranger. It's not one step you can't reach that. But we can at least try to expand our little circle of with whom we identify. We can expand the hours. The number of people whom we consider as ours, we can expand. Slowly, as we more expand and more come in within that circle of ours or mine, then we become less and less selfish. And as Swami Vivekananda says, unselfishness is God. She lived these precepts as making the whole world her own, our own. The ever-increasing people who came to her, more often they are complete strangers to her, They are welcomed as her dear children coming to their mother. When Holy Mother lived in Jairambati, often the people came late at night because there's a they had to walk across the paddy field, and in the daytime, in hot weather, it's very difficult. So people often started walking the afternoon, late afternoon. So by the time they walk all the distance and reach, in those days there was no other conveyance other than walking, or part of the way to Jarambati. By the time they reached the mother's village, it will be late at night. But mother would get up. They may be complete strangers, it doesn't matter. They get up, welcome them, make sure that food is prepared for them late at night, and the resting place to spend the night, everything is arranged for them. And when they leave, both the visitors, the children, they within inverted commas, and mother are in tears. Maybe just 1 day or 2 days, but that love has come so much, they will be in tears. And there was no distinction of caste or religion or even nationality. There was no barrier of language. People will say, how can I've talked to that person, I don't know that person's language. There was no difficulty with Holy Mother. It is the language of the heart. When Holy Mother went on a visit to South India, many people came to see her. But she could not speak English or any other South Indian language, or not even Hindi. She could speak only Bengali. Whereas these people in the South India, they didn't know Bengali. One day, mother was in Bangalore. She was sitting in the big hall in the Ramakrishna ashram. The hall was full of people. Everybody sitting silently. And then after some time, mother turned to the young monk standing next to her and said, "What a pity. I can't speak their language. If could I talk, they would have got so much of joy, happiness." Then when the Swami translated it, they said, no, we are happy. We are full. We are feeling just being in her presence, that the mother's love, they are feeling it. And her motherliness overshadowed even her role as a guru. When people came to Holy Mother for initiation, spiritual initiation, she just blessed them without caring whether they are worthy or not, whether they are worthy people or even complete wicked people. Many came, sometimes even sent by the Swamis, sometimes from the Belur Mutt. They may not have known the person's background. And Holy Mother initiated all. Once, Yoginma, in a very light mood, said, "Mother, Sri Ramakrishna's disciples are so great. And look at your disciples." Then Mother said, "Is it anything to be wondered at? He accepted only a few select disciples, and that too after various kinds of tests about Sri Ramakrishna. She had very few disciples, and he tested them and then chose his select disciples. And towards me, he has pushed the whole lot of ants," she's saying. The whole row of ants. And she continued to care for these ants for a long time. After Sri Ramakrishna passed away, she lived for 34 years. She started giving initiation 1 year after that. So for 33 years, for long 33 years, she cared for the ants, the big row of ants, till her death. Among those who came, there were men and women, rich and poor, young and old, very young old people, very young people, young, even children, educated, illiterate. Once, Holy Mother gave initiation to a railway porter at a railway station. So there's no restriction for her. Eccentrics, revolutionaries, and many, many sinners. She accepted all. One of the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Premananda, says, the poison that we can't assimilate, we pass on to the mother. When he says, refers to poison, the evil deeds. The idea is when you give spiritual initiation, you take the karma, the results of the actions of the disciple. So if the disciple had done bad things, you accept all those bad results onto you. So that's what he refers to here as poison. The poison that we can't assimilate, we pass on to the mother. She draws everyone to her lap. An infinite power, an incomparable grace. Glory to Mother. Not to speak of us, we haven't seen the Master himself doing this. See, in his estimation, Holy Mother goes beyond Sri Ramakrishna even. We haven't seen the Master himself doing this. With how much caution and what testing he accepted anyone. And here, what do you see here at Mother's place? Wonderful. She grants shelter to everyone, eats food from the hands of almost anyone, and all is digested. So there is no distinction. She gave shelter to all. All you had to do is call her mother and approach her. That's what she said. And Holy Mother, to play her part, she also guided the young monks and the Ramakrishna order during the early days. It's the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, some of the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, who to some extent understood the greatness of Holy Mother. For them who understood the greatness of Holy Mother, her very wish was command. They looked upon her as the Divine Mother. Swami Vivekananda used to refer to her as living Durga. Before going to America, as we heard already, he sought her permission. With her blessings, he went. And when he came back to India, when Holy Mother came to Calcutta, because she spends her time in Calcutta and Jarambati. So when she came to Calcutta, Swami Vivekananda went to meet her. Kumudbandhu Sen, a devotee, young devotee who was present, has given a vivid description of what happened, what transpired when Swami Vivekananda went to meet Holy Mother. He writes, "It was indeed a heavenly sight to see the world-famous Swami Vivekananda prostrating himself with deep reverence and humility before Holy Mother, like a devoted son. He, what we call Sashtanga Pranam, full salutation, full length salutation. And then, as ordinarily we do, we touch the feet of the person with our hands, but Swamiji did not do that. He said, to the other disciple from the devotees who were assembled there, he said, you do pranam, but don't touch her feet, because she accepts everybody's sins, bad karmas, whatever bad results you are accumulated, she will accept it. So her life is precious, her body is precious. So salute from a distance. Then Holy Mother, of course, asked about his health, because his health has broken down after the strenuous work in the West, and also from the time he landed in Colombo, in Sri Lanka. He was giving lectures and meeting people. So his health had broken down. He had gone to Darjeeling for rest and had come back. So mother asked, how is your health and how the work is going on and all that. In reply to mother's enquiry, Swamiji said, I see directly, I feel, and I realize that I am a mere instrument of the Master. Sometimes I am myself surprised how such wonderfully great things are taking place and how in the West men and women are ready to devote their lives to this noble cause and help me voluntarily in spreading the message of the Master. I went to America with the blessings of the Mother, and when I succeeded in moving the people through my speeches and received tremendous ovation from them, I remembered at once the power of Mother's blessings, which had worked such a miracle. Some of the disciples of Sri Ramakrishna realized the greatness of Holy Mother. And so, as Swami Premananda, whom I referred to earlier, whenever he was asked to invite for giving lectures, before going, he will go and seek her permission. And if she gives permission only, he will go. It happened that once the devotees had come to take him, but he was sick and got out, became all right only a week before. So mother was not very happy. And mother told the devotees, no, it's not proper that he goes now. Then he asked, do you want to go? She asked him. And Premananda said, what do I know, mother? Whatever you say, I do. If you ask me to jump into water, I'll do that. I don't know anything. You are the one to decide. And then at last, the devotees are pleading again, and then so she told them, see, their lives, their bodies, precious. You look after them. You look after him very well and don't strain him too much. Another incident, Swami Vivekananda decided to perform Durga Puja in Bellumat. And he wanted to do it following all the rituals to the letter. Everything should be according to scriptural injunctions. And part of the Durga Puja rituals, there is the sacrifice, animal sacrifice, a goat is sacrificed. When this was reported to Holy Mother, Mother said, no animal sacrifice in Bellumat. When some of the other disciples of Sri Ramakrishna raised this objection that we should not have animal sacrifice, Swamiji said, no, we will follow all the scriptural injunctions. So animal sacrifice is part of the ritual, we should do it. But when Holy Mother said, that's it, no more argument. He used to argue with Sri Ramakrishna, but mother said anything? No more argument. Implicitly obeyed whatever mother said. Another funny incident, a servant in Bellumat, he was caught stealing something, and Swamiji sent him off. No, we don't want thieves here. So the poor man went to Holy Mother and confessed and sought her help. After some time, that same day, Swami Premananda went to Holy Mother. And then Holy Mother said, Baburam, that's his pre-monastic name, this man is poor. Because of his poverty, he did it. Now, he has told me, he has promised me that he won't do such a mistake again. Take him back. Then he said, but Swamiji asked him to leave. If I take him back, Swamiji will be angry. Then mother said sharply, I tell you, take him back. So Swami Premananda took him back, and seeing him coming with the servant, Swamiji said, hey, there, Baburam is bringing him back, the thief. But when he heard that Holy Mother asked him to take him back, servant back, no word more. Finished. No more. Because these disciples of Sri Ramakrishna knew her greatness, that she was an equal partner in his mission. So that is why Swami Prabhananda wrote, Swami Prabhananda, who is now one of the vice presidents of the Helpmate, he wrote, she never had any formal or official status within the order. Yet, truly, she was the empress of the Ramakrishna kingdom. It's not an exaggeration. She is the empress. Holy Mother is the first thought in whatever happens when Sri Ramakrishna's disciples were alive. As long as she was there, whatever happens, the first thought is, what will Mother say, what will Mother do, or how is Mother managing? The first thought was about Mother. Manindra Krishna Gupta, a late disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, Manindra came to Sri Ramakrishna as a young boy. In his later life, he told the devotees that he had heard Sri Ramakrishna saying during his last illness, my work has been half done, and she, referring to Holy Mother, will do the rest for the good of humanity. So Sri Ramakrishna himself put her as the helpmate, and as Mother first answered him, I have come to help you in your spiritual mission, that is continuing. She has been doing and is still doing, playing her active part in the spiritual mission of Sri Ramakrishna. I'll just finish with the words of Swami Brahmananda. If you want the grace of Sri Ramakrishna, first propitiate Mother. Thank you.
Thanks, Pravrajika, Gayatriprana, for your very thoughtful presentation, giving us some guidance to follow. So as I mentioned at the beginning, the purpose of the event like today's is to rejuvenate ourselves mentally, to think that what is the purpose of our being in the world. So this is basically, over the year we go through different events, and then we try to draw your attention from the teachings, memories, and experiences of our founders, Sri Ramakrishna and our Empress, Sarada, and also Swamiji. Well, now Robert will make some announcement for the post, occasion.
Thanks to all those who watched live on YouTube or will be watching later on. We have, for the next 3 Sundays, we'll have the spiritual mornings at Vedanta Hall. That is some inspirational readings and then silent meditation with the nuns. So you're welcome to join us for those next 3 Sundays from 11 a.m. to 12 noon. Then when we get into February, all our regular activities will recommence. But we will have on Sunday, the 7th of February, will be the next special function. That will be the celebration of Swami Vivekananda's birthday. And we'll have a panel discussion, and there'll be a talk by Sridhara Pranaji. And let's hope maybe the COVID-19 restrictions ease a bit before then, and we can invite more people to join us in the audience here by then. And The yoga classes will recommence on Thursday, the 11th of February, and the fortnightly spiritual evening discussion groups, that'll start from Friday, the 5th of February. And we have donation plate there, donation box up the back. And please stay back and get a packet of the offered sweet and savouries. Before you go, please make sure you get a pack of those. And thanks very much for coming.